Here's Jack Musa on the breakaway, looking for two, he's got it! Jack Musa across to O'Hara, he scores! That's a program record for point streak! Here's Donzlish Mills on the doorstep, they score!
Hello everyone and welcome to our first UMass Hockey Preview Show presented by UMass Journalism. I am Jacob Repper.
And I'm John Ruggiero. Thanks for joining us here on YouTube, where we will bring you videos, highlights, and analysis of UMass hockey all season long.
John, it has been 187 days since UMass Hockey last played a game. We're now just 2 days away. But before we look at that, the youth that this UMass team has, why don't you take a look and remind me of what last season was like for the Minutemen?
Well, Jacob, it was a rough start to the season for UMass. That's for sure. They were 2-2 after their first 4 games. That included a loss in the home opener to Sacred Heart. Never want to lose to an Atlantic Hockey opponent, especially early in the season like that. So UMass was a little bit banged up throughout the beginning half of the season, and that all culminated into a bad series against Vermont. Only captured 1 point against the Catamounts, but after that there was an upward trajectory. They got their first back-to-back regulation wins of the season against Providence and Harvard, and they hovered right around the 500 mark into the new year. But once that new year came, UMass exploded, especially in February and March, where they beat number 1 Boston College on the road. They beat number 11 UConn on the road. Jack Musa had a hat trick in that game. That was absolutely crucial for the Minutemen, and that all went on to a series against Maine, where they took the majority of points against the Black Bears.
John, you know the saying, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And UMass was exceptional towards the end of the season. They didn't have a single regulation loss in those last 6 games. Michael Robel, he was phenomenal. A 1.91 goals against average, highlighted by that 38-save victory that you alluded to versus Maine. That led to UMass punching their ticket to the NCAA tournament, where UMass was seeded 11, and they drew the University of Minnesota in Fargo, North Dakota, of the regional round.
Yeah, Jacob, a top 5 team, and that game, the first game in the regional round, turned out to be quite the classic. UMass fell behind early in this game, and you see there the Golden Gophers making the score 3-1 before the third period, and that's how the game went into the third period. But UMass roared back like they never have before. Idar Suniev got the scoring going, scored a goal there to make it 3-2, and then Owen Murray finds Daniel Yenchko in front for the tip in to tie the game at 3 in quick succession in the third period. And then UMass even took the lead here. Francesco Del Alce gets a lucky bounce in front. 4-3 UMass heading into the final minutes of the third, but Jimmy Snuggerud puts one past Michael Rabel there, and the Golden Gophers tie it with less than 3 minutes to go. The game went into overtime, but do not fear, Idar Suniev is here. He scores the game winner for UMass and sends the Minutemen to Game 2 of the regional round for the first time since 2021.
John, that Suniev OT winner was electric, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sure was, Jacob. We were there for it, and we witnessed and gave a call of the moment. Let's take a look at that.
He's got his head up along the far side, tries to cut to the middle. He goes down to the ice. No call. Fans want one. They're not going to get one. Referee and linesmen are going to be very particular about what they call here. Here's Donzlish Mills on the doorstep. They score! They score! The Minutemen are fighting in Fargo, and it keeps on going.
Idar Suniev, the hero for the Minutemen, down 3-1, go ahead for 3, tie the game 4 apiece, go to overtime and win it.
John, we slept pretty good that night, didn't we?
Yeah, we sure did. The adrenaline was high, but we sure had fun.
The next game, just 2 days later, UMass and us, we took that momentum against Western Michigan, and Donzlish Mills opened the scoring for the Minutemen in the first period. It was a great way to start the game for UMass. You see him here, Donzlish Mills, streaking down the far side, cuts to the middle, and scores. That sent UMass up 1-0 against Western Michigan. However, a few moments later into the second period, that's when things really started to go bad for UMass. Even though this was a phenomenal goal, Idar Suniev, he took a penalty in the second period. It was a 5-minute major, a game misconduct. That sent Western Michigan on the power play, and they score. It was Liam Valente with the goal late in the second period. It was a beautiful goal by him. UMass, they were reeling a little bit, John. They had Suniev out. They tried to find some momentum going into the third without him. And the third period, it opened up with another goal from Western Michigan. This time, Tim Washi, a gorgeous snipe in front, a tip, in fact, and it was an incredible game for Western Michigan as they come back. They won 2-1, and ultimately, John, this marked the second time in the past 2 years that UMass were taken down by the eventual national champions.
Nonetheless, Jacob, it was a great run for UMass. Always great to make it towards at least the Elite Eight, as it's called in basketball, but the final 8 teams in hockey there. But UMass lost a handful of guys due to graduation and guys moving on to professional hockey, guys that provided highlight moments last season. I think of guys immediately like Idar Suniev, who we just saw there, Cole O'Hara, a Hobie Baker nominee for UMass. Don't forget about guys like Don Schmelis and Kenny Carners as well. It's got to be a tough thing to overcome this season for UMass. So what do these losses really mean, Jacob?
It means a lot, John. You look at the type of leaders that these guys were, all older. You see the numbers right there. 10 departures. That's a difficult number to overcome. Cole O'Hara, Suniev, Kenny Connors, they accounted for a lot of offense too. They lost 5 of their top 6 scorers. That's 50% of their offense. You factor in some of the bottom 6 guys, some of the defensemen that they lost last season. In total, that is 61% of their offense with those 10 players that left. The 2023-2024 season, however, they only lost 36% of their offense. So, John, it's undeniable that UMass, they will look to have a different offense this season. The good news for the Minutemen, however, is that they have a handful of returners, 16 in total. John, let's start with the offense. Who do you think could lead the way for the Minutemen?
Well, immediately a guy like Jack Musa comes to mind. He is the top of the returning forwards in terms of points, 3rd on the team last year in points, and he had 35 points all throughout the season. He will be an X factor for UMass. Also think of a guy like Daniel Yenchko. Of course, he was in his freshman year last year, had some injuries, but was great in that game against Minnesota, had a point, a goal and an assist, 2 points that is, for the young Slovakian. And he has to step up, though, especially coming into a bigger role as a sophomore. But, Jacob, there's some talent on the defense as well.
There certainly is. Larry Keenan, as steady as it gets last season. UMass, their defensive counterparts, they had a little trouble going into the season, but so steady was Keenan, the Detroit Red Wings draft pick, and then Francesco Del Elche. 2nd in the nation, John, 2nd in the nation among freshman defensemen in points. He was phenomenal. Expect those guys to have a big role, and these guys, they will be tasked with a lot defensively. That's for sure.
Yeah, Jacob, they sure will, but there's no bigger factor to the UMass's defensive success than 6'7" goaltender Michael Rabel.
This guy's phenomenal, John. 2 seasons in Amherst. You look at the numbers right there. 2.11 goals against average, a .918 save percentage, 2 shutouts. He's the 2nd most experienced goaltender in Hockey East, one behind Philip Svedback of Providence. This is a guy, John, that has steadily progressed over the past 2 seasons. It's unsure if he'll be with UMass following this year, but this 3rd season will be big for him. Expect Michael Rabel to be the X factor for UMass.
I'd have to say so myself, Jacob, and he will surely be a leader on the team as well. But we have 2 faces that are going to be wearing that brand new C on their jerseys. That's going to be Lucas Olvestad and Owen Murray, the new captains for UMass. Owen Murray didn't miss a single game last season, played in all 40, logged 14 points over that time. He is a huge presence, especially in the locker room. He's been here since his freshman season, a homegrown talent, Owen Murray. Lucas Olvestad, in his first season with UMass last year, put up a career best 20 points in the 38 games he played. He brings national championship experience to UMass as well. He's the oldest player on the team at 23 years old. So his experience and Owen Murray's is crucial for UMass.
It certainly is. These are 2 guys that have veteran experience. You mentioned Lucas Olvestad, the national championship. The resume is all there. One thing that stood out to me about Lucas Olvestad last year was how vocal Coach Carvel was of him in the spring, especially heading towards the NCAA tournament. And then Owen Murray, like you mentioned, a guy that has just climbed up the ranks, a testament to Coach Carvel's development among the defensemen. They will be tasked with leading a very different group this year, John. We mentioned the departers. That's going to be a challenge for those 2 guys.
Yeah, Jacob, a full new class of transfers and freshmen coming in. But let's talk about the transfer portal here. They welcome in 3 new forwards. Jacob, can you tell me who they are?
Sophomore Mikey D'Angelo, junior Owen Mellenbacher from Wisconsin, and of course, junior Matthew Wild from RIT. John, what can you tell me about these 3 new faces?
Well, Jacob, I can tell you that these guys are going to be expected to do some scoring, but don't just take my word for it. Take a look at what's on your screen here. We're going to start with Matthew Wild from the RIT Tigers. Gets a backhander to go past the UNH goalie, a Hockey East opponent. Wild's put up 30-plus points in each of his last 2 seasons in the Atlantic Hockey. He's also a Hobie Baker nominee. Look out for him. This is Mikey D'Angelo. Creeps his way towards the front of a net. He loves to do that. Stands at 5'11". Of course, comes from the Michigan State Spartans. Gets the one-timer to go there. Owen Mellenbacher, the last of the 3 transfers, follows his own rebound and puts it past the Michigan State goaltender, funny enough, in the Big Ten. He is another big body, so these guys should be doing some damage for UMass. And you take a look at the numbers here, Jacob. One guy stands out among the rest. It's got to be Matthew Wild.
Yeah, certainly. You lose a Hobie Baker candidate in Cole O'Hara. You get one right back in Wild. You mentioned the point per game at RIT. Even though it's an Atlantic Hockey program, that's a good program up there. He was phenomenal. Coach Carvel called him a great offensive guy. And then Owen Mellenbacher and Mikey D'Angelo. These are 2 guys, veteran players, probably bottom 6. They didn't get a ton of minutes in their Big Ten respective programs, but John, I think if they get some more minutes under Coach Carvel, they could have a lot to provide to this offense. But these guys, they are looking to provide this young team some veteran talent and bolster a very young team for the Minutemen.
Yeah, young is a very important word here, Jacob, because there is 8 new freshmen on this team, and I think that 2 of the 8 freshmen that will have Coach Carvel the most excited has got to be Václav Nestrasil and Jack Galenic. So, Jacob, do you think these are the freshmen to watch for the Minutemen?
I certainly think so, John. These guys are fun to watch. Jack Galenic, Václav Nestrasil, they played together in Muskegon, which is the USHL. For folks that don't know, that's a junior hockey league where players can go to develop, and these guys certainly did. This is some combination as we take a look. They were on the same line, John, so they have experience playing together. This is Jack Galenic centering it out in front for Nestrasil. And Nestrasil, the first-round draft pick in this year's draft from the Chicago Blackhawks, getting in front of the net. He's a big body, John. This kid is big, he's strong, and he's a finisher. You saw it right there. Here's another clip. This one, I love Jack Galenic in it. He's up top towards the blue line. Great vision, great centering feed to Nestrasil in the middle. The lights go black. That happened a lot over in Muskegon. Those 2 were quite the combo. And then finally, a great clip here. Jack Galenic loses the puck for a moment. Near corner it goes. Great vision, seeing the streaking Nestrasil getting to the middle. And he can't be touched, John. He's so great at finding center ice. A player comparison for me feels like Rick Nash. And I think these guys, they're going to be expected to do some damage for the Minutemen this year.
I think so, Jacob. And it's more than likely that they'll be on the same line. You think of Francesco Dell'Alce and Larry Keenan. Those 2 came from the same USHL team as well. Or, excuse me, that was BCHL, I believe. There's so many junior hockey leagues and so much talent on this Minutemen team. But the numbers should be there for both of these guys. Václav Nestrasil, you see his numbers in Muskegon. 42 points over the 61 games played. That's not the exact point total you want to see, but you got to remember, he's only 18 years old, and of course a first-round draft pick to the Chicago Blackhawks. So his big presence should be a game changer for UMass. And we also have to think about Jack Galenic here as well. His numbers are actually a little bit better. 50 points in the 60 games played and a point per game in the Muskegon playoff series, where they actually won the Clark Cup championship for the USHL. So Galenic should certainly complement Nestrasil very nicely. But Jacob, these are not the only freshmen joining UMass this season, are they?
No, John, there's 6 more. That's unusual for a program. Coach Carvel, his company, bring in a lot of freshmen as we take a look at it right here. Players from all across the country. You mentioned junior hockey. You see a lot of it right here. USHL, you see the BCHL, which is in Canada. And then Lucas Klejka from overseas. This is a guy that I'm really bullish on. 104 points in 144 games played. Landon Nyes, Zimmerman, a couple really big players in there. Not sure all these guys are going to play, but John, the talent here, it really is undeniable.
Yeah, it sure is, Jacob. Especially Lucas Klejka there, and we'll take a look at the clips here. It starts with Klejka and Jenshko. He's the one that passed it across to Klejka. That is a connection that UMass should probably explore this year. Here's Klejka again with a beautiful shot past the goaltender. transition here to Landon Nyes. He's the youngest of the freshmen, turns 18 on opening night. That's a young guy right there, but has some skill. Elias Zimmerman, another big body, stands 6'6", give-and-go play there, gets the backhander to go in the Shields Arena of Fargo, North Dakota. Justin Kerr on the penalty kill breakaway scores one there in Youngstown. He's the oldest of the freshmen at 21 years old. Here's Colson Hanrahan, the captain, also on that Youngstown Phantoms team, takes the lane there and shoots one past the blocker side of the goaltender. And the last clip is AJ Lacroix, comes from the BCHL, takes advantage of the defensive miscue there. So there's certainly lots of promise for each one of these young players. And as you said, Jacob, we don't expect everyone to see ice time, especially immediately, but you never know. It's a full, long season for UMass.
It certainly is. Why don't we take a look at that full, long season for UMass? It starts off with Northern Michigan, and then things get a little bit easy for the Minutemen. They play a Northeastern team, Stonehill, but John, we were talking about this the other night. The bulk of UMass's season, it's actually astonishing. It gets really going with the Hockey East opponents in Maine and Cornell before that, and then it really ramps up from there.
Well, yeah, Jacob. I mean, those 5 series right there, Omaha, Cornell, Maine, Boston College, Providence, that might be the most important stretch of games UMass has all season long, and it's pretty much right away. I mean, that is a crucial time that UMass has to at least split each of those series, because if they don't, they could be in a bad position heading towards the middle of the season, Jacob.
You look at what happened last year, John. A difficult start for the Minutemen. They got injury bitten, but the end of the season, that's when they really had their push. I don't think they can afford to lose a handful of games early. We talked about the Hockey East slate. We talked about how it comes up at the end of your screen right there. It should be a good one for UMass, that's for sure.
Yeah, Jacob, and of course, we'll have to transition back to Northern Michigan here, as that is the team UMass will be starting out against for the Minutemen.
It certainly is the long-awaited first season. It's almost here, just 2 days away, as we take a look at Northern Michigan, a program that fans, they may not be fully familiar with, being that, well, they don't play a lot, but this Northern Michigan team, John, they had a tough year last year, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can say so myself. They finished dead last in the CCHA, only were able to pick up 5 wins the entire season. That was under first-year head coach Dave Shayak. However, this team will be astronomically different this season. Coach Shayak has brought in 16, count it, 16 new faces, 7 transfers, and 9 freshmen. These are transfers from big-time conferences, including the Big Ten and the NCHC. Also, 1 coming from the Hockey East. So perhaps the biggest threat on this team is a transfer from the NCHC. It's Warren Clark.
It certainly is. Warren Clark, a guy from St. Cloud. That's a great program. We know about all the great things they have done. A junior defenseman. He's their rock. He could do a little bit of it all. Then you look at the following players. Gert Silkins. We remember him, John, from UMass Lowell, a forward who they hope is going to strengthen up their offense. And then Braden Slipik, a sophomore forward, led the team last year in points as a freshman. That's pretty hard to do, so expect for him to do some good stuff. And then their goaltend transfer from Wisconsin, William Graham, a different looking goaltend for Northern Michigan. UMass, keep an eye on these guys, that's for sure.
Yeah, Jacob, lots of new faces there. And this is a team that does show some promise. The Wildcats were able to keep games relatively close last season. I immediately think of a 2-0 loss to #1 Michigan State, and then 2-goal deficits to the likes of Colorado College and Arizona State as well. But at the end of the day, you can't let those new faces fool you. And, of course, they have been chosen dead last in the CCHA poll to start the preseason, but I wouldn't count them out because you never know what UMass could be in for to start the year.
No, John, that's college hockey. You remember what happened to UMass a few years ago against Denver? Anything can happen. UMass, they will have to be on their best game. They welcome the Wildcats Saturday. That's at 7:30. Should be a fun one. We'll have the call for you on WMUA. You can tune in on ESPN+. And, John, we're almost there.
Yeah, Jacob, we sure are. It's an exciting time of year.
That is all from us here at the UMass Hockey Preview Show, presented by UMass Journalism. I'm Jacob Repper.
And I'm John Ruggiero. Thank you so much for tuning into our first preview show. We'll see you next week to break down the games against Northern Michigan, and we'll take a look ahead to the lone game against Stonehill. Thank you. Take care.